let's go on to some general industry news and just talking about some things that have been developing, some comments that have been swirling around for the past few weeks. Former PlayStation boss Shawn Layden has made some statements about platform holders and different manufacturers and again, just the big brands and stuff in the industry. They need to do more, he said, to basically reconstitute the AA category of gaming. Again, he's talked about the cost of creating games, how AAA has been ballooning and not creating as fruitful of returns, and forcing the industry into a very unsustainable point when it comes to the top end of it. And AA, the smaller budgets, the more sustainable budgets, has to be, you know, restored for the industry to kind of thrive down the line. When, how do you feel about this?
I think that people like, I think AA is very important. Helldivers was an amazing game. There's so many really good AA games that are just like swept under the rug by the AAA, and I think it's something that's almost inevitable. Like, outside of people like making the effort of bringing these bad boys back in, I think it straight up is one of those things where it's like, it's gonna be impossible to keep up with the AAA budget, so you're gonna have to make AAA games, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. AA games are I feel like fucking way more important than the AAA game, because it's good to have a variety. It's good to have something that's on the cheaper side for people who don't have fucking the funds to be buying a AAA game every single time. Like, you know how many, like, it's $70 to buy a game these days, on top of it being like $70, and like with taxes you're looking at 80. Where if you were doing something like 2 AA games, you could get that for 80, and you know, 80 and some change, of course, because it's tax. But like, it's just shit like that would be better, more beneficial for like the people who just can't afford this shit anymore. Like, shit is expensive. We don't have the funds for it. Imagine having to buy imagine buying 3 AAA games in 1 month. You crazy? That's like $200 for 3 games. Now a couple AA games, that's a different story.
For real, bro. I talked about this. Shameless plugs. Again, my personal channel, we talked about this whole thing, man. We went down the line to talk about, like, again, it was obviously Concord that brought the situation about, but like, I fully agree. Shawn Layden is on the money. He is completely on the money with this. The more we continue to invest, and by we, I just mean like the industry and like AAA big developers and stuff, the more that they continue to invest in these things, in the big projects, into $100 million projects, 100 million plus mark projects and more, and expect these huge grandiose returns from them, the more this industry dooms itself. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. If you're able to spread the wealth, i.e. a thriving AA sector, you're able to make safer bets with more innovative choices, so you can take a creative risk without having so much of a financial risk to see if one game flops, i.e. like, or e.g. Concord, and you have more chances to build IP. We have said this multiple times on this podcast, man. Rate this shit 5 stars, by the way, but we've said this multiple times. If there is room to say, hey, instead of spending $100 million on one big project, we can take 100 million, split it between 5 projects, you know what I'm saying? Split that money evenly between 4 or 5 projects. And we'll see, you know, different games, different feels, they might serve different genres or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But they're going to cover a lot of different ground for us. And potentially we could have brand new IPs and brand new star-studded franchises that are born from that investment. Again, Helldivers 2, I can bet your ass right now, Helldivers 3 it will happen. Helldivers 3 will happen because of the efforts that were made at the AA level from Arrowhead and from that studio and from PlayStation's efforts in supporting them. Helldivers 3 will happen without a doubt in my mind, unless some crazy catastrophic thing happens, like the studio closed down or some other shit, but I doubt it. But that will happen. You know what I'm saying? Things like It Takes Two, crazy success critically and commercially, AA game, you know, like, and it was a different look, it was a different feel. I don't want to compare too much outside of it, but it's like quality over quantity, bro. Like, sure, certain people in the space of music might not have the biggest, you know what I'm saying, rollouts and stuff like that, like, or the biggest, you know, like pushes, but their art is still pure, bro, and that still stands out. Again, Tyler the Creator is not a bigger artist than Drake, but he has put out better music than Drake, and for the past few years. You can count that. You can count that for damn sure, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And it's the fact that he's chosen to take risks with his art and roll it out in a consistent way that is, again, on budget, probably smaller than Drake's and what resources he has access to, but the outlay of what he's done, you know what I'm saying? Again, for a better situation, Tyler Creator beating DJ Khaled. DJ Khaled spent so much money on having so many people on his album, so many feature artists on his album. And when he went head to head with Igor, which was a very, very different, different direction, different artistic output of an album, of a project, it outsold whatever DJ Khaled had to offer, because it was more of the same. It was more expensive on more of the same, and nobody really vibed with it as much. And that's the point. People in their cores, they don't want to be bombarded with the same shit over and over again. They'll consume it because they're consumers. That's what they do. But at the end of the day, when you get something that is true to form, true to fashion, a creative purity, when you achieve a creative purity in something, it's gonna attract somebody. People are gonna want that more. And that breakup from the norm and from the monotony of, oh, it's another hero shooter, oh, it's another, or hero shooter that isn't impactful, or it's another battle royale game. If you're taking something that really drives a risk home, really takes a different direction, and it attracts some people, it's gonna hit a point where more people are gonna be interested in trying something new. And when they get to that point, it might turn into a phenomenon. Case in point, Dark Souls. Case in point, the whole Dark Souls genre was literally like, yo, these games are hard as shit and barely anybody plays. It's a cult classic. It is a cult franchise. But the zeitgeist of playing challenging games in that vein grew and manifested and eventually was led by Dark Souls so much that Elden Ring got its push. And when Elden Ring got its push, there were so many people behind it. It's so in its own identity that it became a whole massive thing. And again, I'm not saying that's AA, but I'm saying it's true to its artistic vision. It's true to its core gameplay loops and core identity and core ethos as a franchise, as an IP, as software, as FromSoft, as a studio. It's true to itself. That's what it is. So, and with the current constraints of the gaming space today, the AAA games and the budgets that are being spent, it doesn't allow risk. It doesn't account for risk because people want their returns, and it just isn't sustainable. So Shawn Layden's right on the money, bro. AA needs to come back. AA needs to be back. If Astrobot wasn't a sign of it this year as well, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, you need to wake up if you don't realize what Astrobot symbolizes in that as well. So is that. And shameless plug, that video's on my damn YouTube channel, man. That man trip on YouTube. Watch that shit, bro. I lock in on me.